Work your way down. Yeah, and I had tickets to the Giants game in my car, but then I said, can you show me all the stuff that's out? The resolution. Read what his name is, and then you can check it out. Right. Welcome everyone to the November Historic Preservation meeting. I will go ahead and open the meeting officially on November 17th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Wendy, do you want to call roll?
Chair Alcorn.
Here.
Vice Chair Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Bartlett.
Here.
Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
Commissioner Henderson. Commissioner Honey.
Here.
Commissioner Murab Steele. Commissioner Ritter. With Commissioner Henderson absent, alternate Bartlett moves into a voting position. We have quorum.
All right, thank you. And if everyone will please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, let's go ahead and approve the agenda. Does anybody have any objections to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, the agenda is approved. Let's go ahead and also approve the minutes from the September 29th, 2025 regular meeting on a special night. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I move to approve, based on the clerk's certification, the September 29, 2025 regular meeting special night minutes of the Littleton Historical Preservation Commission.
I'll second it.
Okay, I'm going to attempt to get the voting up. I'm sorry, everyone. I don't see the voting on mine.
Okay, we can do thumbs up, thumbs down.
Okay,
Thumbs up to approve, thumbs down to not approve. The motion is 5 in favor, the motion carries. Thank you.
all right, and we'll move right along to the public comment. If you wish to address the board under public comment, please sign in on the public speaker form before the call to order for this meeting. Public comment is an opportunity to express opinions regarding issues that are not part of public hearings on a night's agenda. A separate opportunity will be provided for comment for any public hearing. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. We expect comments to be civil. Disrespectful or disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. The board is not authorized under the Colorado Open Meetings Law to discuss, comment, or take action at this meeting on any issue raised by public comment that is not part of tonight's agenda. All right, Pam, you want to come up?
Hi, Historical Preservation Board. My name is Pam, Commission, and my name is Pam Chadbourne. First, I want to say I'm glad that the citywide survey has come back. I was glad to see it before. It's a necessary, if not sufficient, thing that we need to make a historic preservation plan, which, again, I'm going to remind everyone in this room, or tell people who don't know it or wanted to forget it and have tried to cover it up, I think, that we as a city were told when the comprehensive plan was passed, like 6 years ago almost now, that the historical preservation plan would be added within a year. And yet it hasn't appeared on the city's work plan since then. This is unacceptable to me as a member of the city, resident, and I think it's unacceptable to a group of us somewhere that care about it, and I think it should be unacceptable to members of this committee. We need a historical preservation plan integrated into the next comprehensive plan. It should be in work now. This survey is a good thing. It's necessary but not sufficient. And so, while I'm glad to see it, we need more. I am not sure how to get that pressure or on the city decision makers, but I want to state it as a problem for folks who care. I did see a lot of not eligible. I'm not sure I understand that. I know Geneva Village is eligible, and this body was suppressed from stating that at the review sessions, study sessions a couple of years ago. I think that was wrong. The legal opinion was wrong about that, and I think that we need your opinion again about Geneva Village. There have been questionable diversions from the mission of both Historical Preservation Committee and Environmental Stewardship Board recently. I'm not sure where that came from internally from the city. I'm pretty sure that there are my guess is that there's developers behind it. The death of historic preservation districts comes from a slow eating away by developers who say, well, we've got to have more, and then a claim that economic development requires degradation of historic preservation. You all know that that's just the opposite. Creation of historic districts in general is an economic benefit to cities. They do better in downturns. And so I look to you to please help us preserve and protect our historic preservation districts. It's not just you, it's ESG too. Something behind the scenes is happening. So anyway, I think there is a problem here, and historic preservation and environmental stewardship are under attack.
That is time.
Yeah, and I'd like the timer to be up there, and I hope the city will take care of that soon, please.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to give a public comment? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on. We don't have any general business, so we'll move to the public hearing portion of the meeting. This is for HPC Resolution 05-2025, approval of a certificate of appropriateness for the building located at 2450 West Main. And Sarah, would you like to start with your presentation?
Sarah, just 1 second. Madam Chair, I just want to acknowledge for the record that I do know the architect for the applicant. We live in the same neighborhood, but I don't see any reason why that would preclude me from being impartial.
Thank you.
Great. Well, let's see if we can maybe switch that view. Sorry, y'all. There we go. Okay. As Chair noted, it is a certificate of appropriateness for roof addition exterior modifications for 2450 West Main Street. As we probably all know, this building is a previous town hall, currently Town Hall Arts Center, located there at close to the corner of Nevada and Main Street. Kind of going over the process. COAs are meant to review those proposed exterior changes to buildings. The public hearing process was followed. Residents were noticed and signs were placed. And then the Historic Preservation Commission has the final determination in terms of approving with conditions, or denying the application. Quick overview, pretty standard proposed changes, and then approval criteria, and then the staff recommendation. So kind of big grouping of changes. We're looking at a rooftop addition to accommodate a fly tower system for the theater, replacement and reconfiguration of entryways. This is predominantly on the front, though there are a couple minor changes on the rear. And then the repair and preservation of historic features and modifications to the non-historic addition, also at the rear of the building there. Starting with the rooftop addition, it is a proposed of a kind of metal screening type structure for the kind of flyer tower system, which the applicant can probably go into better detail on that functionality, but generally allows for set pieces to be dropped in, so that increase in height was needed for that system. The footprint of the addition on the building is 23 feet by 38 feet and is set back about 26 feet from the front of the building. And it will be sitting about 5 feet taller than the parapet wall, and will bring the building's overall height to 42 feet, which is just about 3 feet under the maximum that is allowed for the district. As you can see in these elevations here, it does reference design and kind of design features from the front facade historic features, noted primarily the windows on the second floor and the kind of pointed arches on the entryways there at the first floor. Here are some renderings kind of showing the addition. So it will be visible from other areas within the historic district, but is definitely of a size that is subordinate to the rest of the building and is somewhat minimally visible from most viewpoints. Obviously coming from the east, there is that hill in downtown, so it will be somewhat visible kind of on the farther east side of downtown. But kind of direct on, looking straight on at Main Street level, will not be visible. Here are a couple sightline drawings. The top one there shows from Alamo and Main Street, both kind of the main east-west streets within the historic district, will not be visible or very, very minimally visible. And then the other sightline drawings are shown from Nevada and Prince Street. Similar from those angles, it will not be visible, but as you could see in the rendering, and as we know with the elevation change in downtown, it will likely be kind of visible from that farther away point. And then kind of the shorter building side, the west side of it, will also probably be visible. Looking at the north elevation, modifications here on the first floor are primarily to the entryway. The existing entry was installed at the time of when the building was originally renovated into a theater. It's not the original entryway or configuration. The proposed entryway is to accommodate the theater use more specifically. And so the entrances will be taken from the central kind of corridor in the archway with two doors that now will sit kind of perpendicular to Main Street and allow for that kind of circulation within the building to a ticketing booth. The east and west kind of the arches will be placed, the storefront is placed directly behind the masonry. So it's a little bit closer, kind of up flush. They do not include doors. The open kind of glazing on the bottom is to help with kind of advertising for upcoming shows. The gridded pattern does reference previous iterations of the entry, and the central kind of entryway, it being set back the way it is, actually mimics the original kind of entry design for this building, which was far more set back than it has been in recent history. And then the archway itself does include some of the teal that's found on the second floor and kind of referencing other pieces of the building. The two wrought iron lanterns that are kind of shown there in the elevation as well as are currently on the building will be renovated or restored, with gas being also restored back to them, so they will be functioning as they once were. And then the current downspouts, the building has metal downspouts on the exterior, those will be removed, and an interior type downspout system will be utilized as it originally was. For the second floor, those windows will be restored and saved. They're not proposed to be replaced. They are currently kind of boarded up from the inside, so they are proposing to kind of open up that interior portion so that they are kind of functional in terms of at least light coming through as they once were as well. And then under the roof overhang, that was the last thing, there will be soffit downlights proposed where those kind of arrows are. They will be kind of flush mounted, so you won't see them, but you will see the light, as I believe you could see in a previous rendering. Let me go back, sorry about that. The nighttime ones, you can kind of see how that proposed lighting might look. Sorry, this is moving a little slow tonight, sorry about that. Cool, for the west elevation, those changes are going to be primarily on the first level, as I noted in that kind of rear addition, the kind of CMU block addition that's there. The primary change that's proposed is to provide new metal panel infill. That is currently an open air walkway for functionality and usability. They're wanting to enclose it. They're proposing to use the metal paneling due to the kind of thin nature of it, to allow for as much kind of optimal use of that interior space. The walkway there, kind of where it's pointing says guardrails, will be flattened and stairs added, and then a new guardrail. Again, to kind of accommodate, they're doing applicant will probably go into this, a fair number of interior renovations, so this is to kind of the kind of impact to the exterior of that proposed work. For the rear of the building, primarily just going to be abandoning an existing basement stair that is actually kind of at ground level. A grate will be proposed to place over it for safety purposes as well as still access for maintenance. And then the existing concrete stair and guardrail there is deteriorated, and so it'll be replaced with the same or repaired. For the east elevation, the kind of bottom portion isn't going to have too much change. There is an existing exterior metal door that is being proposed to be enclosed and then shifted over to where that door is shown right there. And then at the top, there is a current kind of polycarbonate roof and open air walkway that they are proposing to enclose with a similar metal paneling to provide, again, for better use of the space for I believe people joining as well as kind of actors. I was told a story of actors slipping on the outside area, so from a safety perspective, I think they're proposing to enclose it. And so yeah, so that was kind of the primary changes that are being proposed. Staff did find that the Secretary of Interior standards, our guidelines and decision criteria were met. The proposed roof addition is subordinate in size, scale, location, is contemporary in design, but does reference features that are on the building as it will be visible. Kind of taking a designed approach was a good step. If the addition were to be removed in the future, the overall central form and integrity of the building would be maintained. The other changes are primarily minor into the non-historic addition. Did not see any issue with that material being removed, predominantly visible from the alley standpoint, so it's not an overly visible area to the public. And then other kind of features were primarily to aim and restore historic material. Very little historic material is proposed to be removed. The entryway is close to that 50-year mark in terms of gaining its own historic significance. But it has been altered multiple times over its last lifetime, as I noted. It again does look contemporary, but references either previous entryway kind of iterations or design features on the building. The proposed design is contemporary in nature, and then if it were to be removed in the future, that kind of essential form and integrity of the building would still be maintained. And then again, the current use, those current entryway was added when it was made for the purpose of the theater. So this change in an entryway is still to support that theater use. So staff does find that that change does fit our criteria as well. So for staff recommendation, I'm recommending to approve it as submitted and encourage approval of HPC Resolution 05-2025.
All right, thank you. Would the applicant like to come up and present?
Good evening, Paul Bryant. Do I have to say my address or anything like that? No? Okay, so I'm the applicant, architect representing Town Hall. Thank you for having us this evening. This has been a long process, so thank you. Before we start, obviously we're looking at the crown jewel of Littleton Town Hall. We're all aware of it. It's a gorgeous, beautiful building. And I want you to know that the architecture team in Town Hall holds that very dear and with utmost respect for this building. So as we go through this, just be aware that that is something that we've taken on very seriously. But before I get into this, obviously this is historic preservation. Buildings have historic nature. They're built at one time, and then buildings learn over time, right? This building is 100 years old. And so what does that represent with its historic nature? It's clearly not Town Hall anymore, right? So just a quick briefing for the folks that are in attendance that may not know, but when it was built in 1920 through 1950, it was the Town Hall until Littleton built a new municipal center down the street here, basically where we're at now. And then from the 50s to the 80s, it was largely abandoned. There were offices, it was sort of in and out of lease. And then one thing that I want to make, and just refresh everybody's memory, but in 1980, the citizens of Littleton, the community, decided that South Denver and Littleton needed a performing arts theater. And so the community, fundraised and put this effort together to establish Town Hall Arts Center, and they did a fundraising effort for 2 years, and in 1982, Town Hall Arts Center opened, which is what we have today. The building has not been refurbished other than minor adjustments since 1982. Town Hall Arts Center endures 43 years of performing arts, hundreds of performances, and hundreds of millions of people coming to Denver. 40,000 a year, if you add that up over 43 years, it's remarkable. So now Town Hall is in a position to renegotiate their lease with the city, a long-term lease, potentially another 40-year lease. And it's time to turn this building into what it is. It is a theater. And what we're proposing today, the appropriateness of what we're proposing today, is to transform this building and to give it modern theatrical accoutrements, like a fly tower, and like patron experiences and things like that, and to help bolster the community, bolster Main Street, all the while paying homage and being very respectful to this building. So, excuse me, I'm gonna, how do I, right click, left click?
Just normal.
Is there, just click down, click left,
Or not.
click right, click, okay. You're clicking, Sarah? Thank you, okay, okay. All right, I may have you go back and forth. So, Town Hall, right? It's a beautiful building. I want you to look at this building. And if you were to walk into this room, you would look at this building and you have no idea that that was a performing arts theater. You would have no idea that that's been a theater for almost 40% of its lifetime. I also want to, if you flip back, Sarah, this is one thing that she mentioned on the photo on the left. You can see the arcade, how the entrances were recessed originally in the 1920. On the bottom right photo, you can see in the 50s where they actually brought out a stucco infill. So there's been a lot that's happening here, but what we're proposing is to bring it back to the original arcade. So the photo on the upper right and the left, as we go deeper into sort of our modifications, just keep that in mind. And then, yeah, you can keep going. Thank you, Sarah. And then to the next slide, please. These are some of the modifications that Sarah mentioned. These are the photographs left to right. Really what we're trying to do, that when the building was added on in between 80 and 82, we've sort of been able to repurpose some of the circulation, work through some of the code issues, modernize the restrooms. So the interior you're seeing here is obviously not part of this conversation, but what we're doing is reorganizing the circulation more efficiently. And then to the right of the screen, what you'll see identified sort of in a hatch pattern, that's where we're proposing is the new entrance to the building. And so we're going to go to the next slide, please. This is sort of the deal, right? So on the right, you see Chicago Theater. And if you flip back to the original town hall, what we have on Main Street now, you have town hall. But the concept that we're trying to sort of bring about to Town Hall Arts Center is we want to identify what's happening within the building, all the while not detracting from the historic architecture. So by creating a central entrance point, we're accentuating the Gothic Renaissance arch in the barrel vault. And then we're sort of adding some sort of the essence of the incandescent lamp like you see here in the Chicago Theater, just to bring back that canopy marquee sense so that when folks are driving down the street, there's some intrigue and it invokes a memory of theater. If you go back to what it is now, you have no idea there's a theater, and the banners that fly out front, they're marquee, it looks like a bus station. We can't have a bus station in Town Hall. And so we're proposing that the modification to the front would be, one, simplify the storefront. So we're replacing the antiquated sort of anodized aluminum storefront. We're using a steel Hope's window system, which is designed for its historic relevance. So all of those are individual lit windows. We're cleaning up the facade so you can see into the building and then organizing the circulation. And if you go to one more slide, please, Sarah. So this is the entrance, right? So, no, you were good. Thank you. Yeah, so that's the entrance, right? So it's very simple, but yet elegant, and it invokes that memory of a more traditional marquee canopy incandescent light, but with a little bit more class. As we go, before we move forward up above, if you look at the second floor of the illustration, you see people up there now. So one of the things that was mentioned was this fly tower, right? So when Town Hall was built in 80 to 82, they were bootstrapped. They didn't have the money to put a fly tower in. And so what they've done, in the fact that the rake is sort of rotated, there is no backstage. There's a right stage and a left stage, but there's no backstage. And so I'm sure you folks have been there, but they're using left stage as backstage. And so they boarded up the windows, and people aren't allowed to be into that space. With the addition of the fly tower, now we've added so much more opportunity for production that we can leverage that and now create that as an anteroom, a lobby, into the theater. But it's also going to activate the street wall along the front. So instead of having flashing orange and blue lights, you'll see people, you'll look up and you'll see detailed ceilings, and it'll just bring back, I think, the intent of the building in 1920. So next slide, please. Thank you, Sarah. So on the bottom right, the plan here, you can see the windows that we're proposing just to reactivate. But I want to draw your attention to the rectangle. That is the extent of the fly tower, which is directly over the stage. And again, The fly tower is allowing the activation on level 2, and it's also bringing the production capabilities. I mean, we have the director of operations and of all town hall here, and there are countless shows that they can't do because they don't have a fly tower. You know, and we used Phantom at a recent unveiling at Town Hall, but there's just countless things that you can't do without a fly tower, and this is a theater that's been around for 43 years. So as we go to the next slide, this is a little bit more straightforward. I think Sarah mentioned most of these things, but I just want to draw your attention, and if we go to one more slide, please. The two diagrams on the bottom show the sightline triangles or the sight lines that are required to fulfill the roof modification requirements. So we fulfill those, but I also want to draw your attention that we're 42 feet is sort of what we have proposed, but we as a design team, through the site triangles and the land use code, could have gone to 45. It would have helped us in the fly tower, but we've gone to a pulley, a winch side-mounted pulley system in the fly tower, and did some other gymnastics to allow the operations to still function, all the while lowering the fly tower 3 feet. We were drawing it at 45 right to the max, but again, we were trying to make sure that we fulfilled the requirements of being subordinate to the historic facade. The detailing of this, and if we go to the next slide, please, Sarah. So it's taking the cadence off of the second floor windows. It's just a simple A. It's the same approach, but we're dovetailing the Gothic Renaissance arch. So there's a embossing that happens behind the Italian Renaissance arch in front. And really, the point of this, folks, commissioners, is we could have clad this in just metal panel, and it would have been a mechanical penthouse. It could have been a cooling tower up there. But it didn't seem right or appropriate to put a cooling tower on top of this building. And so with the sort of consent of Town Hall and then my colleagues, you know, we came up with this motif to really just accentuate what we have there, and then to fulfill some of the requirements again of the historic preservation, you know, section certainly 3.52 and then 3.53, which the proposed addition complements but does not compete with the historic significance of the original building. So it didn't make sense that it was masonry. It shouldn't be any of these things, and it didn't make sense for it to be a cooling tower either. But if we go to the next slide, this should appease some of the folks that are, this is a sort of a, I forgot to put the slide in there, excuse me. One thing to keep in mind when you look at our illustrations, you'll see this, it's sort of a teal color that we proposed for the barrel roof and for the fly tower. So in the terracotta, there's glazed terracotta portions within the top of the Italian Renaissance arch. And so these desperately need to be cleaned, but once they're cleaned, we're gonna find a complementary or a similar matched color, and that's the color that we're using throughout the building. So again, we're pulling elements from the historic building and adding them into these new elements. And then the next slide, please. So here, really, one thing to keep in mind also, again, to the folks that may have some concern, number one, all of these elements can be removed. Fly tower is independent, the structure is independent, it's got columns inside the building down to foundation. It could be removed. The new glazing system could be removed, certainly, and then the barrel could be removed. So none of this is defacing the building in any way. Again, it's celebrating what it is. It's celebrating the fact that it's a theater. But here on the upper right image, where T Salon is, if a highest and best use building was put on that site, the fly tower is obscured. So we're looking at images, and yes, you can see them from the public right-of-way, but we're looking at buildings that are not using their highest and best use. So you can imagine in 20 years, 30 years, someone's gonna look at that as an opportunity to put a 2.5-story building there potentially. So again, right now, we're looking at this fly tower as something that's not a cooling tower, that's to be celebrated as this is the theater within Littleton. But again, you know, it's subordinate, and it's certainly just a modification more than anything. And then the next slide, please. And then this one here from Prince, upper right. So Prince is where, you know, you can just see a little touch of it, right? But again, the buildings there, the alley and so forth, those are not 2.5-story buildings. And one day you would imagine that those would be there. And then I think these go into the window details. I think I just want to close with, again, the, you know, apart from the repairs and deferred maintenance that needs to happen in this building, I think the enhancements are enhancements and they're appropriate in their nature because this building is a theater. It's been a theater for 43 years. It's going to be a theater for another 43 years. That's almost 90 years. The building will be in the theater longer than it'll have ever been anything else. And it really was only Town Hall for 30. So it's been a theater longer than anything. We should celebrate it as a theater. And I think the work that we're proposing is appropriate in the nature that it can be removed, but it honors the fact that it's a theater with preserving the beautiful facade that we have. And with that, I can answer any questions, commissioners. I know I went on forever, but we've been doing this project since 2016, so I had a lot to say. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, what questions do we have for Sarah and the applicant?
I just have the windows on the north elevation. Can you talk about those? Are they going to remain the way they are and just
Yes.
opened up from the inside? Is that the one?
Essentially, so we have looked at them from a historic preservation. The wood is in good shape. I will tell you that they are single pane windows, and if there could be a measure that would allow us to reglaze the individual light with double paned windows for insulative purposes, as much as Town Hall loves to hear South Metro Fire rip down Main Street during a performance, that insulated glazing would really help us. But for now, it's just going to be restored.
Okay.
On the photo, top right photo
Yes.
shown here on 9 of 13, where we can see the fly tower
Yes.
visible looking from the west, the fly tower almost looks translucent. Is it? It's metal panel. What's
Yes.
behind the metal panel?
So yes, and I think we can flip to a detail. So the, and then it would be a plan detail. Let's go one more. Yeah, right here. There you go, one more. Yeah, right here. So, so in the upper left corner, number 3 and number 4, so there's a section and a plan. So what we're proposing is the actual, the fly tower is clad in a metal panel that's painted in the same green teal as the inglazed panel. And then in front of that, we're standing off a sort of this aluminum framed Renaissance arch with a perforated panel. And I think we can get to the actual materiality of that. It would be, it might be at the very end. Did it, or did I miss it? There we go. There it is right there. So commissioners, the upper left corner, so imagine this, you've got a wall that's clad in a flush seam metal panel, and then standing off from it on Z-girts basically, there'll be the Italian Renaissance frame with a screen in front of it, and then that'll create that translucent feel, basically. It'll give it a lot more depth than just a paper-thin wall.
In that photo, it appears to be glowing.
It
that
is
just
because it's
artist-
lit. So in the eyebrow, we're gonna wash that with a light. And so the light will wash down the back of that metal panel, and then it'll give depth to the arch, essentially. And I think again, you gotta take this with, you know, it's an illustration, but yes, I think it's not gonna disappear. It's gonna sort of say, hey, there's something happening here.
So, I'm sorry, I'm not quite following. Is the fly tower at night glowing? Is it?
There are lights in there,
In
Commissioner,
the picture,
yes.
it looks like it is. You actually have it lit and you're calling attention to it?
That's correct. So if you go to the very last page, there will be the actual fixture that we're specifying. Maybe it's one more up. Sorry, Sarah. Yes, so the over left, basically it's just it is a light that is gonna wash the fly tower with light.
Calls out for the light. I don't have no- You show that in your cross-section, right?
Yes, if we go back to the
The light?
detail, please, Sarah. And then, is there a way to zoom in at all in that upper left corner? And then if you go all the way to the top, right there. So that very little top piece. There we go, yep, linear floodlight. So that washes the teal panel. And then what's in front of it is the Renaissance arch with the screening element to sort of obscure it a little bit.
So in other words, you're not trying to hide the fly tower, you are actually accentuating it at night.
That's right,
Okay.
yes.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah, and I apologize, I mean, we could talk about this detail probably for an hour, but thank you. I could, hopefully that's clear, yes.
I just have kind of a practical question.
Yes.
Could you talk about the entrance a little bit more? So the doors will now become perpendicular to Main Street, is that right?
That's correct. So if we zoom in, and I know, Sarah, we're not supposed to get really into interior, but I think the important thing here, Commissioners, if we look at the plan itself, and, you know, we're highlighting just the entrance, but the circulation or the flow, the way the theater is going to operate now is there'll be signage, but there will be someone from the theater, not like a town crier, but welcoming folks. If you have a ticket, you'll go to the left and you'll enter in up the ramp and sort of enter into the building, enter into the concessions and so forth, the community room. If you don't have a ticket, you'll go to the right, and then you'll enter in up the ramp, and the box office is actually in the building, sort of deep into the building. And so really, it's a way to organize that, but what we're trying to do is then create this eddy, which is sort of this shape in the middle that is sort of this lounge, sort of a milling spot to wait for the show to begin. And you have to also remember that there's only 230 seats in this theater. So right now, everyone's coming out one stair. We're also going to bring back the other stair, which is a really nice thing for this building because only one is functional now. And everyone sort of pours out, down and queues up basically in the theater. But now everyone's going to be able to come out to the upstairs lobby and come down and hopefully mill and be a part of this room and space for, maybe, an hour or so after curtain. But yeah, so that's sort of how it works in our minds in terms of how you think about people queuing up to get tickets or otherwise.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any other questions?
Just another comment. This presentation's been really helpful. I really appreciate seeing the renderings of what the fly tower will look like from various angles. We don't always get that, so thank you for that.
Thank my team too, and so thank you, Commissioner.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Let's go ahead and open the public comment portion of the public hearing at 7:11 PM. Okay, our first speaker is Richard.
I just signed in, I'm a member of the board for Town Hall Art Center, professional engineer, and work with the architect, so I have nothing to say.
Okay, nothing to say. Okay, thank you. And Robert?
Same, just signed in.
Just signed in, okay. All right, those are the two people who've signed in on the public comment portion, but just checking if anybody else would like to come up and speak. You want to come on up, Pam?
I'm still Pam Chadbourne, live a block and a half from here. So, I grew up here and it was a long time ago. My mom loved this theater and she came to many productions. So this is an important building to me. I'm going to say that I don't trust my understanding of the impacts of the change. So I'm going to trust you all. And the two questions you asked went right to the two things that I have the most concern about. The entrance, and I don't understand lighting up the fly towers. Why not leave them dark and not lit at all? I don't think they're a feature. They're a bug, and why highlight them at night? I don't get it. But that's just me. I'm not saying that it's something to decide on. I'm saying that I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. Also, I don't like the doors. So to me, I thought that those doors had something to do with horses and having wide spaces for horses to go in and out and stuff like that. That town hall also included fire suppression and maybe there were fire things in there. And I like preserving that. I think that that's a fundamental function of that facade and those shapes and forms. I'm not sure I see the benefit of narrowing an entrance also. It seems less safe to me. I don't understand the Chicago, hangout facade either. That to me is like not a good thing, so that doesn't help me understand what's going on. And finally, the lighting. I mean, when I saw on the lighting sheet, there's a couple of bulbs that hang down exposed. I want our code to have model lighting ordinance. It looks like from the illustrations that all of the illumination is going to be, the sources of light will be hidden and shielded from direct view, and that the light will come out and illuminate the structure. And that's safer and better, and it's just the right way to light things. But a couple of the illustrations showed these bulbs hanging out, and I don't think any bulbs sources of light should be visible on this change. So anyway, those are the things I thought of. Like I say, I don't trust myself to understand what the changes will do. Those are my concerns. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Pam. Would anybody else like to come up and speak as a part of the public comment? Okay, I will close the public comment portion of the hearing at 7:15. Commissioners, would somebody like to call for a motion and a second so we can discuss the project?
You can do that.
If I have a clarifying question, should I ask it now or wait until we've made the motion?
Now, I think would be good. Thank
Okay.
you.
One of the public commenters said that we were narrowing the original width of the entrance. I did not pick up on that from Sarah's presentation or the architects. So could you guys clarify?
I believe it's because currently, it's not narrowing the entrance at all. It is, sorry, I'm trying to find, I think currently there are either two or three doors across it, and they are turning the doors just to the central portion. So it's not that any of those spaces are being narrowed, it's that the doors are not gonna be on the east and west side.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the portals stay the same, it's just the doors themselves change.
Yep.
I move to approve HPC Resolution 052-2025, approving the certificate of appropriateness for 2450 West Main Street.
Second?
All right, thank you. What does everyone think?
Yeah, I guess my only concern would be lighting, the lighting of that flyway, or whatever it's called.
Fly tower?
I don't see the need for that.
Is that something we should be considering? And that's an open question. Is the lighting of the fly tower an issue that either meets or doesn't meet a standard? And if so, which one are we talking about?
For the lighting, in terms of the kind of making it is twofold. It's a very designed structure, so there are moments when you say, let's light it up, let's make it sure that it's seen and it's clearly differentiated. Another approach would be to kind of further make the structure subordinate to the rest of the building would to not highlight it. So you could condition it to say that you don't want that down lighting, to kind of further mitigate the appearance of the addition on the building. So it's one of those things where the standards are somewhat open for interpretation, and you can kind of interpret it either way, to say it enhances the contemporary nature of it and the separation of it goes into the design, or you can say, well, let's mitigate that impact and maybe not call quite as much attention to it.
I have to say, I have a little bit different point of view on what the treatment of the fly tower. And that's, when you look at it from the west side of the building, the west and the east side, I guess, it kind of activates, it's a very industrial gray area. And so it kind of activates and accentuates, it adds some color and some splash to that side of the building where the parking lot is and all the more mechanical features.
I was going to say, I agree with you, Amy. I think it does activate that space. And, you know, it has been a theater since the 1980s. We are in the period of historic significance. And so, you know, not everybody would know that that's a fly tower, that it's a part of the theater. But the people who do, it does accentuate the use of the building.
I have kind of, excuse me, I have kind of mixed feelings about it. From an aesthetic standpoint, I think it looks pretty cool, glowing like that. But we're not here to talk cool. We're the Historic Commission. The presentation has gone to pains to point out that it's not visible from the street. It's only visible when you get either to the east or west of it. And yet, now we are calling attention to it. It's not a historically accurate part of the building, and it is going to be visible, and it's being made even more visible at night by lighting the thing up. My personal feeling is, from a historic standpoint, it should not be lit. I have no problem with the fly tower, and I appreciate why they want it, but I don't think we should be calling attention to it. That's my 2 cents.
I would just comment that I wish all applicants brought thoughtful presentations like these applicants have. I also would want to point out that this is a not-for-profit organization, that, as the architect pointed out, we as a community asked for them to come to this building and to make the building relevant, attractive, and useful again after it was abandoned as a city hall. And whereas most of the time, not most of the time, but frequently we find ourselves in a position where an applicant is trying to take the cheap route, and we're the force pushing against that to make sure that an appropriate amount of money is spent to do something appropriate. These folks had the option of making it as invisible as possible and opted to spend the money to highlight architectural details from the facade so that when someone was in that very specific corner where you can see it from the northwest, you would get that echo of those distinctive
tied together.
Spanish Renaissance details.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we approved with the condition of stripping all that away, they'd be spending less money. So I feel like they hired a professional architect who has been involved in this project almost 10 years, and they, in their best judgment, a board, leadership, and their architect, have said this is what's going to make this building most attractive for the future.
Yeah, I appreciate all the thoughtfulness that's gone into the planning and the presentation.
I'm not sure how helpful this is, but I guess one more clarifying question. Would the intention be to have the fly tower lit at all times? Or would it be just when the theater is open?
That's a good question.
Sorry.
Great question. I just want to make sure we get the right info.
Do I need to introduce myself again? Okay. So we haven't considered that specific question. I will tell you that right now on Main Street, the blue and yellow and orange lights are shining, and they've got, the holiday lights. I think, again, our desire as a team, we want to celebrate the fact that this is a theater. And so I think the lighting that's in the soffit that creates another series of arches that again accentuates the historic facade, that this would be lit very, we're not talking about Las Vegas here, but just subtly lit to show that it's a fly tower and all of the detail has been considered. I think that would be the desire of Town Hall and the design team.
All right, thank you. All right, and any other thoughts? Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote. Can we do thumbs up, or should I try? Okay.
Just to clarify, this is a vote to accept it as it is.
Correct.
No amendments.
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
If you want to make an amendment, you could.
Okay, I was just
You have to vote on that.
Okay, I think I might have got it. Here we go. Okay.
The vote is 5 in favor. The motion carries.
All right. Thank you. Let's go ahead and finish up this meeting with our comments and reports section. Sarah, do you have any reports for us?
I do. I have a bit of a request and can send more information to y'all if needed. The Littleton Boulevard sub-area plan, we are currently under contract with Dig Studios. I believe it's the full name of the primary consultant. We are Dig Studio. We are currently kind of doing going through the process of inviting members of various boards and commissions, local businesses, as well as residents, as well as I've spoken with Historic Littleton, Inc. as well, to join the stakeholder working group. We are requesting from the Historic Preservation Commission that there is one member who is the primary attendee, and then we also have an alternate to attend. It'll be about 8 stakeholder working group meetings over the lifespan of the planning process, which is to take about 18 to 24 months. Will predominantly probably happen in 2026 when we're doing the bulk of the kind of visioning for the plan. And there'll be, as I mentioned, about hour-long meetings, 1 to 2 hour-long meetings. Will likely be in person in the evening to accommodate people's work schedules. And so I'm just requesting that two members that would like to join, feel free to kind of, I think the easiest may be to just kind of, have we done it in the past, where if you're interested, just shoot me an email. I'll kind of take the first 2 that respond, and I can send an email to the whole group since everyone's not here. And if y'all just want to respond to that one to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to read through if they would like to take part. But yeah, it's just primarily to kind of we're going to be doing a fair amount of engagement within the sub-area with residents in the city as a whole, but the stakeholder working group is kind of a more technical group that works together to kind of go over recommendations and ideas and kind of respond to kind of things that are proposed. There will also be an urban design charrette, which is about a 2 to 3 day, I think actually 2-day kind of activity where it's kind of going through kind of design ideas, visioning ideas, and that will also be held with the stakeholder working group. And that will likely be We don't have a firm schedule yet, but it'll likely be summer of next year that we do that. So just throwing that out there, I can put more details in, but just wanted to invite everyone here. I know we've been talking about it for the last year. I think I have been also working on it for quite some time, so we're all really excited to get it kicked off. And we'll keep you updated. We will be doing study sessions with y'all, so we will be talking about it as a whole as well. But that stakeholder member, or the members that are on the group, are also kind of a liaison and can bring back information and discussion as needed as well. But thanks, that's all I got for right now.
All right, great. Thank you, Sarah. That sounds like a very interesting program.
Can I ask Sarah a question?
Yeah.
Slaughterhouse Gulch, has the water been turned off for the season? And so has there been any movement, given the time of year we're in?
I believe they have started that kind of construction on the new piece. So I don't believe it'll be kind of fully switched over until beginning of next year or kind of early spring next year.
But don't they have to turn that off when it's the time of freeze?
That I don't know, to be honest. I
They had
apologize. I'm
planned to
not
turn
quite
it
sure.
off in November, I know that.
Not, but weather unrelated,
Well, weather-related.
weather-related. We've just had such a warm November that I wonder if they're using it or not. This all goes to, what are we doing, what's happening to the structure?
Yes, yeah, and so for right now, it's still they're still technically in use. If it is being water's not being ran through it, it'll be because of weather-related things. The city will not acquire it until the other portion is fully complete. And then we can look at the stabilization and apply those funds that was provided through the IGA.
So there's a period of time when it's not in use, but it also isn't ours.
Correct. It is not ours until the kind of piece
Straighten it out.
that is going, the kind of enclosed piece, until that is complete.
Does that make it vulnerable to sort of nobody being in charge of it for some interim period of time? Or Inglewood is obligated to?
It's still, yes, Inglewood is still
I
obligated
have to interrupt.
Yeah.
This item isn't on the agenda, so we
Okay.
can't get too far into the
Gotcha.
weeds
Great,
on it.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Atassi or Wendy?
I do have a correction. Sarah and I apologize. We had not had a chance to talk about this, but for the committee that she was just discussing, for the planning commission, we actually had a formalized agenda item for a nomination and actual motion for the primary person and an alternate. So Sarah and I will chat offline on when we can have that. But yes, she's right, start thinking about who is interested and who could potentially be an alternate for that.
Okay.
So are you saying no decision will be made until our next meeting?
Correct.
Thanks.
And I was going to report that there's only a study session in December 15th, but with this, there may be a meeting.
Okay. Great. Thank you. All right, chair or board members, any general updates or comments? All right, great. So I will adjourn this meeting at 7:31 p.m. Let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll start our study session.
I'm not sure if it's at the museum, but it might be off grounds.
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of like in inside baseball term for in historic preservation. Continually trying to hook up. But it's what we historic preservationists call when they take a bunch of buildings from elsewhere and kind of relocate them into the central area.
Sure.
I'm hoping it's not on my end, but if it is, then I need to.
If not, we can do it.
USB should work much better. Yeah. Gucci Zoo.
They do. I love that. They have great plaques, and when we were walking around, Key West has great plaques too.
Scratch City of Brotherly Love.
Right.
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia has
Oh,
great plaques.
Great flags.
Great plaques.
Whoever does
And
it.
everyone like, oh my gosh, cool, this is happening here.
Well, worst case, we can rely on the paper maps.
We got large rocks here, we could do that. Just in case the screen is and we'll add them to the online health record as well.
It very well could be my side too, so.
Something to know on,
Kinda, it's a lot of Google Earth layers, but what I can do, I've got paper maps that show virtually the same thing, it just won't be quite as interactive, so.
That work for you guys? Paper maps, all right.
Apologies for that. Having some trouble getting my computer to show me certain stuff. The only layer that was different, I can walk around and show everybody when we get to it, is just like, that's not shown on the paper maps, is highlighting the dates of construction overlaid with the layer previously surveyed, to highlight those sections that have not been surveyed, but that kind of shows up in those maps anyways. So,
I wasn't sure if there's anything.
yeah.
Seem.
No, and it's not an issue with, like,
Okay.
I think it's my HDMI cord, because now that I'm thinking about it, I've had this issue plugging it in at the projectors at my office, but didn't think it was my computer, so. Thank you all for taking.
Hold on, let me, sorry.
yeah,
Sorry
sorry.
to interrupt, let me open the
Yeah,
study session and
apologies.
get us on TV here.
Yep.
Alrighty, hello again, everyone. Let's go ahead and open this study session of the Historic Preservation Commission for November at 7:38 p.m. We are going to be discussing the citywide survey plan. So Sarah, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, just gonna kick it off with just a super brief overview, kind of similar to what we had at the previous session. But Ed, since you are new, wanted to kind of give an overview of survey plan. So generally, it's a process through which community or resource owners comes to understand the character and utility of past surveys that have been completed and plan for and prioritize future survey work that needs to be done. So essentially, it's looking at what we've already done, what kind of may need to come up or need to be shifted, but also looking at what is that kind of future work that needs to be done that hasn't been done yet and how to prioritize it. Having a survey or kind of a large resource to understand helps in terms of designation. It helps in terms of buildings that have already been designated, understanding kind of where they have been. And then also as a certified local government, it is a requirement to have a level of survey record. We are in compliance with that, but this only helps get us closer to having a more complete survey record for the city. This has been about a 12-month, so started at the beginning of the year.
It is not a survey. Say that a survey
It's a
plan.
plan.
It's a survey.
Plan
It
for
is a-
survey.
It is a survey
Yes,
plan.
it is not, the end product of this is not the same surveys that were in tonight's packet for town hall.
To be clear, survey of potential historic sites?
So it's a plan to further survey
So
those sites.
For
Yes,
purposes of
poten-
historic.
Exactly, for potentially historic
Which is why
resources. Correct.
we're here.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, yeah, so just, we've been working on it for about a year, had opportunity over the summer to survey some. Jason, thank you for taking that opportunity. Looked at those existing records, we did reconnaissance survey of some properties, and we focused primarily on our mid-century multifamily, since those have not really been surveyed or really looked at before. Looked at historic context, and then that kind of final survey plan will have those prioritized recommendations for future survey. And this is a bullet point that you cannot see, but it does say, does not include full surveys of properties. Sorry, and it will inform a future preservation plan. This is one of those kind of steps that we had some grant money we were able to utilize and wanted to take, because we have not prioritized that plan just yet. So this is a good kind of interim step that we were wanting to take. And then I'm gonna hand it over to Daniel to kind of go over where we're at in the process in the draft.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, everybody on the commission. Yeah, I had a lot more engaging visuals and maps to zoom around in and around, but computer was not being cooperative, so you'll have to deal with the paper maps for now. But the Littleton citywide survey plan, what I am presenting a draft of, or I believe which the commission may be getting a draft of later on.
It's in the packets.
That is kind of
That's
a
a handout kind of to guide this conversation, so.
So everyone should have it up, right? If it's meant to guide this conversation.
yes,
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna be talking through it, and this is more of just like an informal conversation rather than me just talking at everybody, but.
But it's got a lot of good stuff in it.
Yes, it has the basic nuts and bolts of the, what's included in the historic preservation.
Yeah, and the actual draft will be sent out once we're kind of done here, because we're gonna kind of talk about some of those next steps as well.
Would like to get some feedback from the commission on potential areas where they would like to see further investigation or areas that maybe we overlooked, so. The Littleton's citywide survey plan provides Littleton with a long-term roadmap for identifying, documenting, and protecting its historic sites. This draft represents the culmination of the initial research and reconnaissance phases completed earlier in 2025. Excuse me. This included literature review, stakeholder HPC consultation. I don't believe we actually did full stakeholder consultation as part of this. I don't know if we had the time to do that. And a limited field survey of multifamily residential resources in the city to help guide future phases of survey recommended in this plan. The plan aligns with the Envision Littleton Comprehensive Plan. This is kind of a typo. I believe that those two should not be two separate documents because I believe that they're the same.
Yeah.
Yes, they're the same. Both of which call for proactive preservation planning and integration of historic resources into broader community development goals. Some of the work completed to date is review of previous survey efforts and context studies in Littleton, review of GIS data for previously recorded resources to identify gaps in those previous surveys. That was a large part of what I was going to be showing on the screen, but which you can kind of see in some of these maps. And then development of an annotated bibliography linking Littleton's 4 major local studies with comparative regional and national references. We engaged with the HPC earlier this year, as some of you may remember. We coordinated to confirm priorities and study area boundaries, and then we integrated some of the feedback from that HPC meeting into the survey plan framework, and there's an emphasis on mid-20th century growth patterns, suburban development, and underrepresented housing types. As part of this, we did a preliminary reconnaissance survey of multifamily residential resources throughout the city to see if those warrant further investigation in future phases of the survey. Part of this was preparation of 25 OAHP Form 1417s and 5 revisitation forms to see if there was the general eligibility among resources to further pursue this, which, as I'll get to later on, we are on the fence with a lot of them, and we'd like your feedback on eligibility, how the commissioners feel about some of them. And we're open to hearing you out and potentially changing the eligibility of those if the commission feels it's necessary. So next up is a table just going through the results of that reconnaissance survey from the 30 surveyed resources. A large majority were recommended not eligible. Now, however, that was according to National Register of Historic Preservation Standards. That said, a lot of these could be termed as, there's not real good architectural styles for or a lot of them yet, because a lot of these are just becoming evaluated now on a nationwide scale. Many of these resources are just reaching that 50-year threshold and they've never been surveyed before, so there's not good archetypal names to just throw everything into a certain category. So that's something that is still in development across the industry, but some of these resources may require further, yeah.
I'm not clear on what criteria these properties aren't meeting to be rendered eligible in you guys'.
Yes, in our opinion, so a lot of them, so for instance, criteria A, association with an event. They all, technically, they are all associated with that mid-century multifamily residential development of Littleton. However, in our professional opinion as historians, if everything is eligible just for being associated with an event, then nothing is eligible. It dilutes the system. So we reserve eligibility for things that are truly eligible, things that kind of rise above the bar of just a general building, so.
So is it A that most of these are falling down on?
I would say A, and then some of them could be under C, but they're not particularly high style or examples of apartments. There are some that we surveyed or that we looked at that definitely warrant eligibility. For instance, the Prince Charles apartment complex. Or
Note
Royal
those
Garden.
eligible?
What's that?
Did you note those eligible?
Yes,
Okay.
that is the Royal Garden apartment complex. There's a couple of others in here. And then also there's, let's see. So the ones that were recommended eligible were the Royal Garden Apartments, the Cali Brommel residence, one of those split houses that exemplifies early multifamily housing in the city, as well as the Rapp Street Apartments, which Rapp Street and Normar, which are kind of the second phase of post-war development, multifamily development in the city, moving from just small, almost duplex type structures to more walk-up apartments and garden level apartments. Additionally, we've got the Ocelot Apartments, and I believe there's Broadmoor Village, or one of the Broadmoor ones. There's a lot of names with Broadmoor in here, so. And I was hoping to show some pictures of all these to get up on the screen to get feedback, but.
Being new to the committee,
Yes.
I guess I'm probably behind the times. How did you come to select multifamily residences as the type of structure to be surveyed?
That was based on.
As opposed to other kinds
That was
of,
based on feedback from the previous study session with the HPC.
but that's what they wanted to look at was multifamily.
Exactly.
Yeah, it
That's
came-
It
underrepresented.
was a staff recommendation that we,
Yes, so
we
the
didn't
background
start,
on it,
we didn't start.
previous HPC received previous, some of y'all were on, said previous HPC as well. We received a grant from the Arts and Culture Board to do some survey work, and further kind of public engagement around survey, which we will get there. But, they called out within that grant, this kind of need in previous discussion to look at kind of more underrepresented housing, our mid-century multifamily, et cetera. And so that is where it kind of came from, was keeping in line with that funding and that kind of previous iteration. So it was brought for most kind of from a kind of a staff perspective, but it was from a previous discussion with a previous staff member.
Underrepresented. Like, these have not been surveyed in the past, and as we'll get to here, in the gaps that have been identified, you'll see that a lot of the residential stock in Littleton has, or a lot of previous surveys have focused on high-style, single-family residences. The Arapahoe Hills subdivision is one example of one of those subdivisions. But yeah, it's an undersurveyed resource type in the city.
I'm probably clear off base, but I'll throw it out here anyway. An area of the city that has always been of high interest to me, and one of the reasons I wanted to join this committee in the first place, Littleton's history and heritage is farming. And interspersed around this city are some pretty cool old farmhouses that are embedded into the city. You've got modern homes surrounding an old farmhouse. And I would love to see owners of those homes have the opportunity to have them designated. I think it'd be so cool if people walking down the street saw a little plaque in front of a farmhouse saying, this was the original homestead of John Jones who homesteaded in 1872 and blah, blah, blah. That would be so doggone cool.
Absolutely. And
Now, that may not be appropriate for what we're talking about here, and I'll let you go on with
No,
what you
and
want.
so that is a very valid point, and that is, it's an interesting part of history for a lot of people, but it is just one piece of Littleton's history, and a lot of those resources have been previously surveyed. That will be a later phase, is to go back and look at those, because as you'll find out, historic survey is never quite done. It's kind of a repeating process. So once you get through all these, we'll go back and start looking at everything that's been previously surveyed and start updating all those records. But it's, not only is that just, it's a cool part of the Littleton's history, but it's just that first initial stage. Littleton has a long and varied history of development going from a rural or a farm suburb of Denver into this commuter suburb that it currently is.
Sure.
And so.
Well, sorry to interrupt.
No,
Go ahead with
absolutely.
your
This
presentation.
is more of an informal conversation, so any member feel free to jump in with additional questions. I prefer this over just me talking to everybody, so.
So sort of tagging on this exchange you just had, we had asked about multifamily, and one of you two said, because most of the single-family neighborhoods have been surveyed.
No, so I've said,
What did you say?
so
I wanna make
a few high-style ones have, not
You
most.
right, the majority of post-World War II residential subdivisions
Yes.
are under survey.
Exactly, so that is my next point. So, existing documentation, so earlier efforts concentrated on pre-war and downtown resources as well as mid-century commercial buildings along major corridors like Littleton Boulevard. If you look at the first map in here, it should just be Littleton Survey Plan overall. You can kind of see a lot of shaded colored polygons. The yellow ones are the multifamily residences that we surveyed as part of the reconnaissance survey. The blue ones are post-war residential subdivisions that are either partially or completely unsurveyed. The green ones are fully surveyed residential subdivisions. And then the purple are previously surveyed individual resources from previous surveys. So as you can see, the purple are primarily concentrated in that downtown corridor. The downtown area, it includes a couple of residential subdivisions to the north and to the, I believe, east. And almost all of those surveys had a cutoff date of the mid-50s. And so there is a significant amount of building stock that has not been evaluated from, I'd say, about 1949 all the way, or from 1950 all the way through 1979. And primarily these are focused to the unsurveyed subdivisions, and resources are concentrated to the west of Santa Fe and to the south of Littleton Boulevard. If you go to, so the second map should be a bunch of just purple dots. Those are the previous surveys. And this is a lot more fun and interactive if I can zoom around, but yeah, we've got, these are all the previous surveys that have been done either as part of city efforts or as CDOT, any other government agency that does a federal project. So these are all the previous surveys that we were able to identify and the previously surveyed resources. The next map is or just the yellow polygons. That is what we surveyed as part of the reconnaissance survey, is in this. As you can see, we've started to fill in a couple of those little pockets, but there's still a significant amount. If you go to this map where it's,
This one.
yes,
It feels, and maybe it's just a scale issue.
Yes.
How many items are on?
30.
30,
30,
okay.
correct.
So you would never guess that looking.
No, some of them are
So
very
just sort of
small.
point out that
Some-
everything on here
Yes, is shown,
is on
yes,
here,
correct.
even though it looks like there are about 5.
Yes, correct. They're tough to see at this scale.
Yeah,
but-
exactly.
And that's why it's a lot more fun to zoom in on the map.
Yeah, just groupings of smaller buildings.
Is that right?
Yes.
Why is it? Or are there dots in places that we just can't even?
So
it
there are a
didn't come
couple of
through on the
dots,
printer.
particularly down in the downtown Littleton corridor, that you can barely see. Just because of the scale, one of them is very small and two of them are kind of covered by the I and the T in Littleton.
So you can see, like, these are the apartments around King Supers and the ones over by Wells Fargo and on Windermere.
So then the next map shows you the residential subdivisions within Littleton. The green ones, again, are subdivisions that have been either surveyed individually as part of a previous survey, or almost all the buildings or all of the buildings within that subdivision were surveyed as part of a previous survey. The blue ones contain less than 50%. I would say a majority of them contain 100% unsurveyed resources within them. By my count, I think there's 115 polygons on this map, counting both blue and green. Of those 115, only 10 have been surveyed or partially surveyed, representing less than 10% of the residential subdivisions. And as you can see through this map, the post-war residential subdivisions make up a majority of the building stock of Littleton. You'll see a big open space down to the south. A lot of that is development that occurred in the 1980s and 1990s. So that is where a lot of those gaps in the map come in. And I can walk around and show you guys on here some more details if you guys would like to zoom in, or but I can keep going with this now. So. Architectural representation, Littleton retains a rich range of what could be termed modernist ranch, split level and garden apartment forms. Now, again, none of these architectural styles have been formalized. They're not in the Colorado lexicon of architectural styles, so they're not official. So that's just where we would like to eventually get some feedback from the HPC on some of that and how they feel about potentially revisiting some of the eligibility of some of these. And then the historic context integration, the plan builds directly on previous surveys conducted in the city, situating this survey plan within a regional post-war framework. So now we get to the actual survey plan. This was a lot of lead up, apologies. But, in short, you guys will be able to read this in the draft plan when you get a chance to review it. But in short, the proposed phases that we are including right now include 4 phases. The first phase would be development of a GIS and survey system for these future phases of survey, because at the moment there are surveys that were conducted by CDOT, there were surveys that were conducted by the Colorado State Historical Society, or what is now the Office of Architecture and Historic Preservation, or Archaeology and Historic Preservation, apologies. CDOT, various government agencies, the city of Littleton, and everyone has their own way of surveying. So all of this data needs to be compiled and made into not compiled because we compiled a lot of it, but made into a consistent format between them, and also digitized so that it's accessible to not only the city but to the public, and repeatable in future phases of the survey. So this platform would then guide future surveys. You could have surveyors out in the field that just go out to these post-war residential subdivisions in a future phase and go through each of those subdivisions, and house by house, you could have a team of people just go through and create individual survey files for each property within the subdivision, and then you could actually get official eligibility on each of these subdivisions pretty easily using the OAHP Form 1403B. Apologies, a lot of these are very technical terms, but let's see. So that would be the first phase, is GIS integration, so making all of the data compatible with each other and understandable and relevant, creating that database. And then phase 2 would be an intensive evaluation of multifamily housing across the city. So we surveyed 30 properties, but there is still, I would say, that only represents about half of the city's multifamily residential buildings from the post-war period. So a future phase of the survey should involve citywide survey of that resource type and development of a historic context chapter specifically on that to help guide architectural evaluations of those resources, because we got a snapshot of it, but we still don't have the full picture, so.
Question on that. So we
Yes.
did the 30 as part of what you called a preliminary reconnaissance effort. And then phase 2, first item is focused intensive surveys of, are you saying just the remainder?
So-
Or does more work need to be
So
done
what
on
you
these
could
as
do
well?
with, so we actually made the site forms for this reconnaissance survey were, we included additional details that are not typically included on those reconnaissance site forms, just because of the way that I think the grant and the scope of work was, like the funding mechanisms and the scope of work, we were kind of locked in on those site forms. We took those site forms and included enough information that all of that information can then be translated over into a full form, and then survey of the additional properties would be included,
So
would be
this,
part of that as well.
we've taken care of surveying these 30, more or less.
For recommendation purposes, yes.
Great.
It would not be, at least at the state level, it would not provide official or official determinations of eligibility, but recommendations, yes.
So the property that is deemed eligible, what happens next with that property? You just let the owner know that, hey, it would be eligible if you wanted to apply?
Yeah, so it
It's
helps,
totally up to them whether they wish to be.
correct, yeah, so it helps assist us in terms of local designations. It also assists with having this somewhat determination of eligibility or recommendation. You do have to go further next, but also opens up for state and federal tax credit possibility, which could help with funding of renovation, et cetera.
Sure.
And Colorado actually specifically has its own kind of set aside for multifamily housing. And then that further goes farther if it's affordable multifamily housing, gets a little bit of extra credit. So there is opportunity in the state that having this information could be helpful for these owners. And so, yeah, so that's
But
kind
it
of,
all falls to the owner. Hey, you're
Yes.
eligible and there's money available if you wanna look into it.
correct, yeah, it would be
It's
kind of.
totally up to them. You aren't
Yeah.
forcing it upon them.
No.
Okay.
Now, some municipalities do have the ability to do that, but I don't believe Littleton does, so.
We actually do for the local side of things, but that is like
That's,
you don't really do
That's kind
that
of a-
often.
Unless it
It's
was
a
something
nuclear
that's-
option.
Yeah, it's
unless
a little
something
bit-
that's really important that we have to save.
That we
or-
feel it
yeah,
is threatened.
Yes,
yeah,
it would.
but otherwise, I don't think we would wanna do that. Like force someone to.
Sure.
Yeah, yes.
Awesome, thank you.
so yeah, the second phase would be that intensive evaluation of the multifamily housing across the city, and drafting of context chapters on multifamily housing development. So within the report, which you will read or review, there is a brief section in there that kind of goes over the findings from our literature review and a reconnaissance survey of these resources. It provides the baseline for a historic context chapter. A historic context is so that future surveyors can come in and, okay, I'm gonna do a survey of multifamily housing. Let's pick up this report on multifamily housing in the city, see what the important architectural styles, the important historical trends, all of that type of stuff.
You're writing a narrative.
Exactly.
Got it.
To guide future survey efforts as well, yes, so. That would be the second phase. The third phase would be a 3 to 5 year phase, so this would be broken, you'd take all of those blue polygons on that map and divide them out and parcel them out by year. And do a citywide survey of all of the mid-century or post-war residential subdivisions in the city, because that makes up a majority of the building stock. This phase could also include revisitation of representative early residences and post-war early residences. However, that's more included in the final phase of these recommendations, which would be a revisit of all of the previously surveyed stuff before now. So that would be, once we get to that phase, we've finished surveying all of the residential subdivisions, we've finished surveying the multifamily. This phase would be going back and resurveying everything that has been surveyed from 1986. I'm trying to remember the dates of those. I can't remember the dates.
Our
of
first big major survey, I think, was 1998.
That's
I
it.
do think
I
there have
knew there
some,
was an 80.
yeah.
Through, I believe, 2018. And so it'd be a revisit of all of those previously surveyed properties, and then included within that would also be cleanup of any additional properties that are outliers that are not necessarily included within a subdivision, or you could also use that phase to update, because at that point it will be another 10 years and a whole new slew of things that we don't know might be historic, might be warranting evaluation. So that's the basic nuts and bolts of the recommendations. Additionally, we have some proposed future historic context that could be developed as part of these phases as kind of as companion reports to these phases of survey. One of which would be residential development in Littleton from 1880 all the way through 1980. That would cover Littleton's historic residential development all the way from the beginning through the end, and it would kind of touch on a lot of that history that you were interested in, Ed, where it talks about the early history all the way through the development of modern Littleton. Another one would be multifamily and alternative housing forms. This is the one that would be part of phase 2, where we survey the multifamily across the entire city, all of them. And then another idea, these are just ideas. We can supplement these with ideas from the commissioners, or as the survey develops, if a context comes up, like, oh, we don't have a context on this specific resource type that is coming out of the woodwork, that would be something that could be added in at a later point. Yeah, that's kind of what I've got right now, or at this moment. So I look forward to hearing the commissioners' comments and feedback, and yeah, I'll open it up.
How does the survey actually take place? I mean, when you go to 5320 and 5330 South Atlantic, do you just go check out the building and say, oh, boy, that looks
So
interesting?
it's
What exactly?
and Sarah and Jason can speak to this because they helped out with the survey effort on this one.
Remarkably informal.
It's so an architectural historian most of the time does their job from the right of way, the city right of way. So it's walking around the exterior of the building without going onto the property unless you get permission of the owners to go on. Looking at the exterior, looking at alterations to the building, photographing the building from multiple different vantage points to get a good sense of it. And then a good chunk of the work of an architectural historian comes in the office when you're writing up descriptions and doing historic research. So the survey is mainly kind of a way to document the resources it looks on that day by taking pictures and taking notes on the alterations, but getting a sense of the surroundings, the setting, all of those aspects of integrity for the resource. So,
thank you.
Yeah. Additional questions? Are there any recommended phases that you guys would like to see included that are not included in this?
I wish we weren't spending the first year doing technical work and not doing survey work. It seems like a year to do all the IT stuff feels like a really long time, and
I believe this.
So some of it's been started.
Yes.
So I've been working with our GIS folks to kind of set up the, that user-friendly kind of system to be able to do the limited reconnaissance. We are kind of working on that, kind of survey platform using Esri so that we can, have HPC members, we can do kind of volunteer type events, invite people from the community to kind of help do this survey work. And we're also working on kind of the surveys that we already have, putting them in a slightly more user-friendly map, kind of being able to see it, click on the property, see it kind of thing, see what surveys have been completed. If we do a new survey for it, it can get added. So that is actually kind of, a lot of that's already in the works. And in terms of merging existing, I don't think this will take the full year.
And I included it as a phase, primarily because it's my professional recommendation that get done before any future major phase of survey.
I think it's important to sequence it and not have it.
I think that that's a critical piece of infrastructure that will guide all of the future surveys.
And it's a staff job, not opinion job?
We have people that can absolutely help out with that. So we have people that can develop both the platform for, I'd have to talk to somebody about the platform for the public to view it, but we can come up with the survey system itself and the data integration portion of it.
Ed, he had his system. You can click on any parcel in the city, and his system of layers of data will tell you if that parcel has ever been surveyed before. So all of those farmhouses, I mean, if you spent, not during the study session, but if you came up with the list, and had street addresses, he could spit out to you any survey that had already been done on them. Is that a fair representation?
That's actually only one aspect of it. We also have layers in here, including decades of construction, so for unsurveyed resources. So we pulled assessor data even in, and it's kind of just a bunch of raw data at this point. But yeah, I think that if there's a system in place that all that can get kind of neatly fit into, it will not only guide future survey by informing you what's been surveyed, but okay, well, here's what's been surveyed, here's some really big gaps we haven't looked at. 1960s industrial architecture along mineral. So,
Cool.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I've got for everybody right now. I look forward to hearing everybody's seeing everybody's comments on the report once you get a chance to review it. And I believe that Sarah may be sending me comments on the site form, so I'm interested to see how everybody feels about that. And
I think these two might have more.
Yeah.
My question's more for Sarah. Once we start getting the surveys, how persistent will we be, or have we thought about an approach to approach the owners of these buildings? Like, obviously, they would have to consent, but like, how, have you thought about maybe how we do that? And, cause like, I mean, you see stuff all the time that we're losing, and this is gonna take, and obviously it's gonna take time, but I can only imagine what we might lose in that time, you know, for people who are unaware, or, you know, maybe we can't, I guess, apathy of an owner, we can't really.
So I haven't thought kind of specifically in terms of, once we have these things, how do we kind of let people know? It can be something where it's kind of there's a variety of ways of kind of looking at it, letting people know, hey, this resource is out here, look and see if your property is on it and it's eligible. And we can have info on there about like, what are the benefits of designation? What does it mean to be
eligible?
Yeah.
What it will, like, it won't stop you from doing things to your personal residence.
Right.
Exactly.
Right, and it could be more of a kind of, I don't see this necessarily being that we send something to every single resident that may be eligible directly, just because I have a feeling that that number could be quite large. But kind of connecting people with the resources on our website, because a lot of this, all of our surveys right now are public record, they're on our website. And we do have a little bit of a map that shows currently designated things, but not necessarily undesignated, and we're working on that. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at, but in terms of once we start getting some of this on board, it's that education piece. It's kind of, we could do kind of prior programs in terms of kind of highlighting just the benefits of historic preservation, whether with or without the survey information. It's a little cooler to be able to look up your property and see if it's been surveyed, but that's kind of the crux of, I think, the education piece on preservation at a local level is ultimately, are those properties that could be eligible, that have that significance, what is that outreach? And it's gonna be a little bit more of a citywide approach of, hey, let's learn about historic preservation. Let's figure out.
A lot of people in the public view historic preservation as someone coming in telling them what they can't do with their property. And so there is a lot of trepidation and hesitation from the public when they hear the words historic preservation. They come at it with a not in my backyard type attitude.
We spent a ton of time talking about this last month.
Yeah. I just, if it come, once we start getting the surveys, if things come to light that seem like they are particularly important, I wonder if maybe we could be more persuasive. I'm not saying all of them, but, you know, I don't know, I live in Aberdeen Village and we're losing stuff every day.
I would say, Paige, to your point of how do we shine a light on maybe some threatened assets. It comes from us. My opinion is it comes from us.
Yeah.
Sarah, I don't think has the latitude or the authority to independently decide this property really needs a little bit of attention from the city.
Sure.
But we, working in the context of the commission, can direct staff to communicate with folks.
Sure.
So we can do a lot.
Yeah.
I would much rather see us be more proactive than reactive. Just saying, hey, there's a website, you can go look at it.
That's what I'm
If
saying.
there's 30 properties on here and maybe 5 of them are eligible, that's 5 form letters that have to go out that say, our indication is that your property may be eligible for historic designation. If you choose to look into that, here are the pros and potential cons.
So reach out.
You have, there are tax credits available to you, but there are also requirements for maintaining it. It's your decision. Here's some hot links that will get you to where you can check on it.
Right, and I think we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves on.
Oh, way ahead of where you're at.
Notifying owners of eligibility.
It's only because a month ago, and you didn't have the benefit of being here, we talked about this a lot and talked about, should we take a more activist approach to advocating for designation?
I think
And
that
Sarah
this is-
actually had a bunch of conversations she was gonna go back and have to see what kind of surveying was available to us.
I do not have an update on that
Yeah.
Okay.
yet. Just being honest,
Judging
I
by the
don't.
look
All
on
right,
your
yeah,
face,
we'll
I'm
just, like,
reminding
table
you.
that.
Don't have an
Just-
update
yeah, I
just yet.
wanna
This is-
mention it,
Well,
I
and
guess.
this survey
ignoring it, I
plan would
promise
be,
you.
would be that proactive first step, because you can't preserve what you don't know you have.
Exactly, that's the first step, and we're moving kind of beyond that, but once the survey's done, what do we do with that information besides having it available for future reference? How can we take that and actively work to preserve the heritage of this city?
Exactly.
So a lot of these surveys will also help city planners with their decision-making on their end, because they can, say they get a development application, they can easily go in and find out, okay, this building's been surveyed, here's what's been altered on it, it's been, okay, this part isn't original, that's the part that they're proposing alterations to, and so it would just give city planners a more informed, as well as the commission and other city and the public, just in general, a better idea of what there is and what's historic and what maybe not
Sure.
is not contributing to the history of the resource. So
Nothing to add to, no, it was.
Okay, great. Do you guys have anything else for us?
I think so, not at the moment. No, I look forward.
What's the timeline for next steps?
So I think we have a hard deadline of December 20th. So
For delivery of final survey plan?
So.
And have you delivered a draft survey plan?
Yes, that's, we wanted to kind of go over, give the parameter, he got me the draft, here today, so we wanted to kind of go over everything. I will send it out and give a time period for comments from y'all.
December 20th is a month.
Yes.
A little bit over a month, but yes, and it's gonna be a tight turnaround, so.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
The quicker you can get comments to us, the more, it is greatly appreciated, but.
How long of a document is it?
I believe it's 50 pages.
I feel like a.
Wholesome light
Cancel
Thanksgiving reading.
It might be a little bit shorter if you take out some of the maps and
Yeah.
there's, so this table that you have in front of you is also included within the report, so that's a solid 10 pages of 10 to 12 pages of the report, so.
What makes the 20th a hard deadline?
I believe that's the grant funding.
That's the kind of, yes, that's our kind of grant and contract deadline. If there is, the likelihood is we'll probably get it to kind of that final stage, and then unless y'all come back with no comments, and then we can try to have it fully adopted in December. There is, if we're good with comments, we get that stuff kind of back. December 20th is at a time period where it's probably not gonna happen for adoption in December, but January we can kind of do a formal adoption. Daniel may not be with us because the contract is done, but we wanna make sure we get that draft to the kind of final stage, discuss anything if we need to at the December meeting if there's any kind of big issues. I will get this out to y'all tomorrow morning, and then have the goal of, let me,
Dan, you have to have pencil down by the 20th, is that what you're saying? Yeah, okay.
Close of business on the 20th, so, yeah.
Mountain time,
I will-
Pacific time?
I will do everything in my, well, I guess technically it might be midnight, so I will do everything in my power. If you guys send me comments on December 19th or even the morning of December 20th, I will do everything in my power to address your guys' comments, so.
yeah, so I will put this in the email, but would request, let's see, like final comments from y'all like December 8th, so that we can kind of, or preferably December 1, but I understand Thanksgiving. So if we can.
December 8th works. I mean,
Okay.
if you can get them to us sooner, that's great. If not, December 8th is, we can work with that. so.
Because that'll also give us a little bit of time to, we may not have the formal corrections done, but if there's anything we need to discuss at the study session, we can discuss it. That's on December 15th, which will then give another few days.
We're having a study session on the 15th, is what you say?
Likely,
Okay.
yes.
Unless there's no comments or no discussion for further.
But we don't need a formal vote on this. This is not.
This will be, if we read through this and we do have some corrections or things that we wanna kind of make changes to, the formal vote will either happen, if we're good to go, December 15th. We can do a formal vote to adopt the survey plan. If it's not good to go, we can do it in January. Have that time kind of go up to that December 20th deadline for all those drafts, and then kind of look at it, and do that adoption, is the goal.
Awesome. I look forward to hearing what everybody has to say, so.
Thank you.
You say that.
All right.
I promise you, I've gotten worse comments from agency officials, and so I've gotten some thick skin as a historic preservationist at this point.
Perfect. All right, well, I will adjourn the meeting, the study session at 8:21. Thank you. Thank you.